There are plenty of great password manager apps on the market today. Is it safe to trust a free option like NordPass, a service that's relatively young in the market? Over the next few minutes, I'm going to give you an unbiased review of NordPass, show you how I set it up and use the software on a daily basis. And if you stick around, I'll give you 3 expert tips to make your password manager app, whichever one you choose, pretty much hack-proof. Let's get started. I'm excited you've joined me for another All Things Secured video. My name's Josh, and I'm your security test dummy for all online privacy software. Today we're looking at NordPass, a password manager app developed by the same company that brought you NordVPN. Now, I've been using password managers for a couple years now, and the truth is that it's a pretty basic piece of software. There's not too much to it, really. It's meant to store all your passwords in a secure vault, sync that vault across all of your devices, and then allow you to retrieve your passwords quickly and securely. Anything more than that is just bonus features. I've covered a number of different password manager apps on this channel before, so what I want to do right now is explore what makes NordPass better than, or at least different from, competitors like 1Password, Dashlane, and Bitwarden. The most important thing you need to recognize is that NordPass works on a freemium model, which means that you can download and use NordPass right now for free if you want, but you can only unlock premium features by subscribing and paying for the service. You can store as many passwords as you want on multiple devices, but with the free version, you can only be logged into one device at a time, which is annoying, and you're also restricted from sharing your passwords. In this regard, NordPass is better than 1Password, which doesn't offer a free version at all, and Dashlane, which caps free users to only 50 free passwords. However, like any freemium model, it's designed to make you want to eventually subscribe to the premium service, so keep that in mind. If you've used any other password manager app, the NordPass app will feel very familiar. You can use biometric login on mobile devices, although unfortunately it's not a feature that's been developed for the desktop app yet. As far as security goes, NordPass gives you the option to secure your account with 2-factor authentication via an authenticator app. But unfortunately, they don't yet support 2FA security keys like the Titan security key or YubiKey. I much prefer using these keys instead of an authenticator app, and most other premium password managers support the 2FA keys. They have a password health feature that I'll show you in a moment, as well as a password generator, which can help you create extremely complex passwords. One feature NordPass offers that I don't think any other password manager app does is the ability to pay for their service using cryptocurrency, which gives you somewhat of an ability to create no trace between your identity and your NordPass account. I don't like the fact that the browser extension is currently dependent on the desktop app, and what this means is that you have to open the desktop app in order for the browser extension to work. It feels a bit clunky, and I didn't like having to wait for the desktop app to boot in order for me to retrieve a password. I've already watched NordPass develop a number of updates on their software just in the past 2 months, so hopefully by the time you're watching this, they'll have made some other improvements. Let's jump into their website, download the software, and give it a test run, okay? Here on the NordPass homepage, where if you click download NordPass free, it's going to do exactly that. It's going to download the software package quickly and easily. And the next things you're going to have to do is create both a Nord account and a NordPass account. I'm not really a big fan of having to create 2 different accounts. They're obviously trying to get you to package in NordVPN, NordLocker, and a lot of their other services. Really, all I want right now is NordPass, but you're going to have to do both of them. My only recommendation here is that you don't use the same password for both, because there's a little bit of a security risk there. All right, let's go ahead and jump ahead after you've installed the software and see how to import your passwords. Now that you've set up your account, when you open up the NordPass software, it's going to ask you to add your first password. You can either import items or just add a new item straight into the software. Later on, if you wanted to, you can go into settings and click on import export, and they're going to give you all the different options for the different browsers or other password manager apps that you can export from them and import into NordPass. And if you're not sure exactly how to do that, what's great is they give you step-by-step instructions for each one of these different places where you can export from. I'm going to go ahead and import a CSV file that I have, and we're going to go from there. Now that I've successfully imported that file, you can see all of my logins that have been put into NordPass. I can look in and see that it's got my username, it's got the password and the website URL, and I'm going to show you how that actually works when you're logging into something through your browser. But what I want to see first is how exactly they treat all these items. We've got logins, we've got secure notes where you can type anything into a secure note. You have your credit cards, personal information where you can put something like a home address or even just your passport number or something like that, shared items, and then your trash. Now, NordPass allows you to organize your passwords, as do a lot of different password managers, into different folders. So let's say I were to go into my logins and say I wanted to take Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and Instagram and Reddit, and I want to move those to my social media folder. So I can move all of those to my social media folder, and then I can say streaming services like Pandora, Netflix, and Amazon. Because I use Amazon Prime, I'm going to move those into my streaming services. Now, problems arise because this is a folder system. It's not a tagging system. And what that means is, let's say I've got Amazon as a streaming service. Well, I can't have that both as a streaming service and online shopping. So I've got eBay in my shopping, but if I wanted to take and have Amazon in and move that into a folder of online shopping, it's going to remove it from the streaming services. Now, this doesn't happen often because you're only going to categorize them usually in one different place, Amazon being a weird example here. But you can only put them in one folder, and then you can go back and look at them all in your logins. Personally, I would much rather use the search feature than to put them into folders, but I've heard that a lot of people like to use the folder system. One of the things I've noticed is I like to be able to use notes. My secure notes is something that I use. I use Evernote. I don't know if you do as well. The problem that I've seen with NordPass, one of the things I don't like, is that you cannot search from within a note. So let's take this for example, test YouTube. What I can do is if I search YouTube right here, I can put a note in my business credit card. I can put a note, into an actual login folder. You know, it's a competitor to YouTube is what I put in the notes. But what you'll notice is my actual secure notes don't show in here. So this is one of those things where you could put secure notes into a folder to help you organize them better, but you cannot search your secure notes, or at least you can't right now. And NordPass, if you're watching this, that's something that I would like. I would like to be able to search within my secure notes if I'm logged into my NordPass account here. Now, before I move on to the browser extension, let's take a look at the tools that they give you. You have a password generator within the actual app. I'm not going to use that as much as the one that I'm going to show you on the browser extension. They do have password health, which is going to show you which passwords are weak, which passwords have been reused, and which passwords are old. Now, going in and actually changing the password, you have to go onto the website to change the password. But NordPass is going to give you recommended passwords. It's going to suggest passwords that are going to be a lot stronger, and then you can update those within the software. But just keep in mind that setting that new password within NordPass is not going to change it on Facebook here. You're going to have to log into Facebook, and you're going to have to change the password there. Likewise, they're going to have a data breach scanner, which is something that's common in stuff like Dashlane, 1Password, and other password manager apps. One thing these other password managers apps don't have is NordLocker and NordVPN, which are part of these Nord accounts that I was telling you about earlier. NordLocker being something where you can store, it's kind of like Dropbox or OneDrive. They give you some secure storage. I think they give you, at this point, they give you 3 gigabytes free, which isn't bad. That's 3 gigabytes of free storage. That's great. NordVPN is another paid service. If you don't know what a VPN is, watch this video here. And I've talked about NordVPN, ExpressVPN, and many others, but that's not here for what we're going to be, that's not exactly what we're talking about here. Within the settings, you can actually set an auto lock. This is one of the reasons why I suggest a password manager app over something like just a browser password manager like Google Chrome or Firefox, because I can say that after 1 minute or after 5 minutes, I have to re-input my master password in order to get access to these passwords. That keeps somebody who has, that keeps from happening where somebody could get access to my computer and then automatically have access to all of my passwords. And that's the problem with keeping all of your passwords on something like Chrome or Firefox, is they don't have that ability to auto lock. I always recommend that you set up 2-factor authentication, and then you can tell NordPass to start on boot if you want it to. We've already gone through import and export. You could export these to go into another password manager if you wanted to. As you're going through using the browser extension and saving new passwords, you could say, for your banking, you don't want to save it. You don't want to save your banking information anywhere. Just as an example, I do, but if you didn't, you could say I'd never save it for when I log in to Chase or Wells Fargo or whatever, and that would show up here. And then before we get to browser extensions, advanced trusted contacts. This is something that is more of an emergency contact in the case that something happens to you and somebody else needs to get access to all of your accounts. This sets them up as a trusted contact. Now let's go ahead and look at browser extensions. I'm going to set up a browser extension for Google Chrome. I'm going to add it to Chrome and add that extension. And what it's going to do is it's going to add the extension here, and I have to confirm that the software that I have on the computer will work here. And let's go ahead and move over to here. Now I'm going to pin this so that I've got it right there. And what you're going to see is that anytime you want to use this browser extension, it's just right here. You can search within here for any login that you want. You can take and do the password generator. This would be the best place to use a password generator because you can determine how long you want it to be, what kind of characters you want to have, and it's going to create the best, most secure password possible using the parameters you give it. Now, there's one thing that I don't like about the browser extension. I went ahead and I just closed NordPass on my computer, the software. So if I wanted to log in to this right here, I actually have to launch the app, open NordPass, and the app has to be an active, open software on my computer in order to use the browser extension. I don't really like that. That's not something that is the case for Dashlane, LastPass, 1Password, Bitwarden, and others. It's something that's very unique to NordPass here, and I wish that if there's one thing I could ask them to fix with their browser extension, it would be that. I wish it was a standalone that accessed the cloud version instead of having to do it on my computer. So having that on there, you'll notice, let's say I wanted to go into Twitter and log in. Most of the time what's going to happen, actually before I do this, let me show you if I were to go into Netflix. All right, most of the time what's going to happen is if I want to log in, you're going to see that NordPass gives me an option to log in. That's not going to autofill, and the reason they don't do that, they told me, is for security purposes. I can respect that. It just takes a couple extra clicks of clicking here and it will fill it in for you. One of the things I have noticed using this a lot over the past couple months is that there are some websites, it must be something about the backend HTML, where it doesn't recognize the username. Twitter is one of those where I try to go in and it won't actually put in my username, and so I have to do it myself. Now, other password manager apps, I use 1Password a lot, they are able to do that. So it's something with NordPass that with Twitter, it doesn't work like that. However, for most, I'd say that 95% of my logins, NordPass recognizes both the username or email and the password and will autofill those for you, and then you just click sign in. Now, what about adding new passwords? Let's say that you wanted to create a new login for Netflix, and I'm going to create a test email account for Netflix. What NordPass is going to do is it's going to obviously suggest a strong password that it can create. And so if I wanted to do that, again, I've got the option to change the length and what kind of symbols, numbers, letters it's going to use, and I can use that password. And what happens is it's going to ask me, do you want to save this login to NordPass? And do I want to put it anywhere? So I can put it into streaming services and I can save it. And that login has been saved. It's a new window. Again, not necessarily the best user experience, but it does work. And then I can click continue and create that account. Of course, I don't really want to do that. But what I've done here is I've created a new test account with this email, or excuse me, this password that it created, a very strong password, and it saved it as a new login without me having to go in and manually save it. So that's one of the great things. If you don't have a current password manager and you need to start setting up and doing that, when you set up NordPass or any password manager for that matter, anytime that you're signing into a new place, it's going to ask you, do you want to save this? And then you can do that very easily. As with many companies that run a VPN service, Nord is coy about their ownership. The company is based in Cyprus, but there's practically nothing known about its leadership or investors. While this often bothers me for a VPN, it's not as important for a password manager. You see, password managers operate on a zero-knowledge basis, which means that even if your family members went to NordPass with proof of your death and a request for access to your account, it's not that they wouldn't give over access to your account out of principle, they literally couldn't open your vault. When you combine a strong password with two-factor authentication, it creates an incredibly strong defense that renders any concern about trust pretty much unnecessary. But don't worry, if you're still not convinced, stick around to the end where I'll share a hack that you can try to fix this. So what's my final verdict on NordPass? Well, I love the simplicity of the software and the freemium model it's built on. It's definitely geared toward the individual consumer, not the enterprise user, even though the type of encryption they use for the vault is what you would expect for businesses. Personally, I like what I have with 1Password, but since they don't offer a free version, I'd recommend NordPass to anybody who wants to try something out without paying any money. Even their premium version is cheaper than others on the market though. I've got an affiliate link in the description if you're ready to download and try it right now. Okay, now before we close, let me give you 3 important tips for using a password manager app. Not just NordPass, but any of them. First, the most important thing you can do is create a strong master password. This means that your master password should be at least 12 characters long. It should include a variety of characters and shouldn't be something that you can easily explain to somebody. I even have a password checker tool that'll allow you to test different passwords and get instant feedback on how good it is. And you should treat your master password like the most important password you have, and it shouldn't be written down anywhere. Second, even if you use a password manager app, please enable two-factor authentication on the logins that allow it. I've explained two-factor authentication more in depth in another video, but suffice to say, it's the best thing you can do to secure your online accounts. I use a 2FA key like this one you see here from YubiKey, but you can implement 2FA for free using an authenticator app on your phone. And finally, if you're really paranoid about your passwords like I am, and you don't trust any single piece of software to be completely hack-proof, my final tip is to watch this video here to help you set up a double-blind password. Using this strategy, I ensure that even if my password vault were to somehow be hacked, the passwords I store aren't my real passwords. They're blind both to me and to my password manager app. Thanks for watching, and stay secure.